Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. Today it is cloudy and it is soup weather. So I have a friend who has an allergy to onions of all things. And you don't realize how many onions you use until you start looking at your recipes, particularly for soup. Nearly every single recipe has onions in it. It's really hard to find a soup recipe with no onions, but I do have one. I haven't made this in quite a while, and I'm going to be changing up a few things. So go with me as the first thing we do is make our own version of some V8 juice because the recipe calls for V8. But this soup is really nice. It has beans, it has homemade sausage in it. If you don't have homemade, use your favorite kind. You just need a pound of it. So go with me as we start out making some V8 juice for our version of sausage soup. Okay, so I have my Vitamix mixer here. If you don't have a Vitamix, just know you can chop these vegetables up, add them directly to your soup. It's going to be the same exact ingredients. Mine's just going to be a different consistency because I'm going to blend it up super smooth. Now, if you have a regular blender, give it a shot. I just never have had that much luck with regular blenders, but I always say a Vitamix is like a cross between a household blender and a lawnmower. It is just that powerful. So we're going to start out by, let's see, let me find my knife. This isn't the knife I would normally use, but we'll use it today. Take our carrots, and you don't have to cut them in smaller sizes. I'm just doing it so it'll make less noise. And these carrots are super sweet. I'm not sure why, but right now at our local big store, their organic carrots are so sweet. They are literally like eating a piece of dessert when you just grab one out of the fridge, wash it, and start chewing on it. Oh my goodness, they're so incredibly good. All right, so that's a couple of carrots, a few sticks of celery. I have a mushroom, gonna throw it in there. I have a whole apple that I've quartered. I have about 5 bay leaves. I still have live bay leaves plants out in my sunroom. It has gotten cold enough at nights just a couple of weeks ago where it killed off most of the foliage on the basil plants, but I'd pulled a couple of them in, so I had a few basil leaves left. A little tiny piece of ginger, not big, because I'm telling you, in fact, I'm thinking about cutting this one in half. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut it in half and only use part of this. Ginger is powerful, and when I say powerful, I'm talking about like spicy hot, and whoo, my mouth can really tell it. And I've got a little bit of green bell pepper there. You could use a red bell pepper if you want. That would be fine, and it would be a little bit sweeter flavor. Also have a 28-ounce can of fire-roasted tomatoes. I'm going to add that. Like I said, this is my own version of V8 juice. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference in the taste of the soup because the sausage is probably the thing you taste the most in this soup. I had a package of ground pork and it was in the freezer, so yesterday evening I remembered to take it out of the freezer and put it in the fridge to thaw. It thawed overnight, and I just added my ingredients a while ago to make homemade bulk pork sausage, and we will link that video also in this video. So if you want to try your hand at making bulk pork sausage, it has no MSG in it, it has no sugar in it. It is absolutely divine, and you will have so much less fat when you cook this down. Normally, if I buy a package of just name brand or store brand bulk pork sausage, there's almost as much fat as there is meat coming out of it, but this has such little fat in it. It is absolutely delightful. I would encourage you at all, if you have any inclination to make things better by making it yourself, homemade with just a few ingredients. It's so inexpensive to make too. I would give the bulk pork sausage a try. Okay, we're going to pour our tomatoes in here. Try not to splash them all over me. the rest of that out with my beef broth that I add to it after a while. All right, we're just going to blend this until it's smooth. All right, I think we got it smooth. Now let's go over to our stovetop and we're going to start cooking up our sausage. Okay, I'm trying to get enough light on this where you can actually see what I'm doing. This is not the best pan to use for videoing, but for my purposes, that's the one I'm going to use. It's kind of shiny, so no matter if I turn this light on or what light, actually that's not too bad. Okay, we'll use that light then. I had this light over here on, but that wasn't enough. All right, I have the burner turned on and just wait on it to get a little warmer. Okay, it's on. But I made my sausage and put it on this wax paper. Actually, it made more than a pound. I think it was like a pound, almost 1.75 pounds on the package of ground pork. So I went ahead and added enough spices to accommodate the 1.75 pounds of meat. And then I weighed out 1 pound of it to use in this. So this is 1 pound of ground bulk pork sausage. In the meantime, I'm going to be cutting up these 4 large russet potatoes. My husband laughs at me because I keep saying, trying to figure out how to make a boom so I can put it above my food. And he walked in the other day and I said the same thing. I'm trying to figure out how to make a boom so I can video this painting project that I'm doing. I did finish the video yesterday. He looked at me, put his hand on his head and said, you're always looking for a boom. But we hadn't figured out how to do it. We're kind of dumb. Not technology savvy at all. I'm not anyway. He figures stuff out real easily. Me, It was up to me. I want to have 2x4s and clamps and stuff like that. I'll get it done, but it will not be the way most people think it needs to be done. Okay, you want to be careful with your sausage that it doesn't stick together in one big clump. It's not going to affect the taste, just the texture of it, but you want the sausage evenly distributed throughout the soup. So try to keep it stirred up as much as you can. Now, if I were cooking a package of store brand or name brand sausage, there would already be so much grease in the bottom of this pan, but I'm going to show you this right here. No grease, none. All right, back to trying to cut up some potatoes. I had to cut a couple of bad spots off this potato, but that should still give us plenty of potatoes in our soup. You don't want the potatoes cut into large pieces. I'm going to show you about what size it is. This is what I call mini marshmallow size. So that's about the size of the dice that you want. This recipe also calls for 2 cans of cooked kidney beans, but I decided yesterday I didn't want to use canned ones, so I just cooked 1 cup of dried kidney beans in the slow cooker, and that made 3 cups of cooked, which is what 2 cans would equal. We have a small group Bible study at our house that we host on Sunday evenings, and the friend of mine who is allergic to onions is part of our small group. And bless her heart, we often eat before we get started. We'll eat and visit for an hour, and then we'll start a Bible study. And I just know every time she walks in, she's not going to see anything there she can eat. Normally she and her husband eat before they come, but I feel horrible, and I forget about making things without onions in it until I see her face, and then I'm thinking, why didn't I make something for her? So I'm excited to make this because I'm going to call her ahead of time on Sunday or on Saturday, Friday or Saturday, and say, I've got soup you can eat tonight because it does not have an onion in it. And people just know how much they're loved when you do something special for them, that it doesn't matter to anybody else. All right, I'm going to start putting these potatoes in just as I get them cut up. I'm going to put the lid on this pan and use that heat from the steam of the potatoes cooking. Use that to cook the potatoes a little bit faster while I go put these over at the sink. I'm going to add about, this looks like about 2.5 maybe cups of beef broth. You can buy packaged beef broth, of course, but I make my beef bone broth ahead of time and keep it in my garage refrigerator. So I'll just be using that. These are the kidney beans that I cooked in the little slow cooker last night. Drain these before I put them in there. You're supposed to drain them if it's in a can, so I'll just drain what little liquid's left in these. Next thing I'm going to do is shred up this little tiny head of cabbage, and it's so cute. I didn't even buy it to make this soup with, but when I had the idea, I was like, oh yeah, I got a little head of cabbage in there. It's perfect size. So this calls for shredded, but I'm just going to chop this up small. They get so excited when I drop a piece of cabbage in the floor accidentally. They love cabbage. All right, we'll let that cook down and we'll add our other ingredients. This is my favorite corn. You can use canned corn if you want to, but frozen corn is just so good and sweet, especially if you get the super sweet. And Trader Joe's organic is probably the best I've found. It's kind of like eating candy. Super sweet, just like the label says. So you're going to use about 2 cups of that. It really is like eating a little bite of dessert. So good. All right, the next thing we're going to put in there is our V8 that we made a little ago. I forgot to save the bone broth to rinse my can out with. Ah! How do I do that? I get so excited about putting stuff in there and then forget what I was planning on doing. Okay, I think we'll add some water to this. That way we can use it in both these containers and rinse them out. Water in this. I have a little piece of beef fat floating in there, so I'm thinking maybe it'll come out at some point and I can use it in the soup. We got most of it out. Only to realize I have some in the lid. If you cook your sausage ahead of time, these could all easily be put into a large, as you can see, a large slow cooker and just cooked while you do something else. You come in and the soup's ready and the house smells great. Okay, next ingredient, we'll put our corn in there. And then one more ingredient. I made baked rice earlier to use in this. And if you've never baked rice, and if you've never heard of baked rice, if you've never heard me talk about baked rice, you're probably new to the channel because I talk about it all the time. It is by far one of the recipes that once I stumbled upon it, tried it, and started making it like that, I was like, I will never go back to boiling it on top of the stove, ever again. This is by far the best, as far as easiest and most delicious way that you can cook rice. You don't have to keep an eye on it. It is simply amazing. All right, I'm gonna get a spoon, just kind of measure that out a little bit into a cup. Because I think we only need 1 cup. Yeah, 1 cup of cooked rice. And this is basmati rice. We'll link the video to baked rice so you can see what I'm talking about. Normally when I cook rice on top of the stove, I mean, growing up, I tried to do it because a lot of my family are rice farmers, and when you go to their house and you spend the night, you eat breakfast, they make rice and you put butter and sugar on it. There's a little bit of salt in it. It is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. When my Aunt Lucille fixed rice, you better stop what you're doing because that was the best stuff you were going to put in your mouth all day long. It was so stinking good. Well, I grew up thinking, I can make rice. I know what I'm doing. Every time I put it on the stove and start cooking it, it says, put a tight lid on it. Okay, it bubbled over. It knocked the lid off. Biggest mess ever. So I basically stand there the entire time watching this pot of rice cook, only to go, it just doesn't taste like Aunt Lucille's. Well, let me tell you, this rice, although I don't make it to add butter and sugar to it any longer just because I don't eat the sugar that much, but to serve with savory dishes, it is the best. It has so much flavor. I've said this before. I took, let's see, red beans and rice to a friend who I think they were in the hospital for a period of time or something was going on with their family. Took them a meal, took red beans and rice and something else. And when I went to pick up the dishes, I said, is there anything else that I can make for y'all that your whole family would love? And quickly they chimed in and said, you got any more of that rice? And I'm like, you mean the red beans and rice? Yeah, the beans were good, but we really like that rice. And it was this rice. It's because it's flavored with broth, either chicken broth, beef broth, bone broth, and it just has such a good flavor. It just really is kind of the star of the show. No matter what you're making, if it's something that goes on top of rice, this rice will kind of steal the show. Now there's only a cup of it in this, so chances are it's not going to steal the show with this soup. So 1 cup of your cooked rice. The nice thing about this baked rice is you cook it for 30 minutes at 350 degrees. I don't care if it is making 4 cups like I just did. You use 1 cup of rice. It turns out making 4 cups of cooked rice once you add your liquid to it and bake it. But I've also made it in pans that I want to say were 17 quart pans. You still boil the liquid, put it on the rice, put the foil, the parchment, and the foil over it, bake it at 350 for 30 minutes. Doesn't matter. It could be a pan the size of a bathtub. You're still going to bake it at 350 for 30 minutes, and it's going to turn out perfect. It's not sticky at all. As you can see, it basically just kind of falls apart. It's perfect. So that's my commercial for baked rice. We're just going to turn the heat down on this, let it cook slow for a while until the potatoes soften up, and then our soup will be done. Of course, you're going to taste it. Add salt if you need to. But this is hefty. This has really good flavor to it because of the sausage in it, but the cabbage and the potatoes and stuff just really make it a nice meal. Okay, I'll turn the heat down. I'll wash some dishes while this is finishing cooking, and we'll come back in a bit and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, friends, we have finished our soup. It is smelling good. I haven't tasted it yet because it's too hot, but that is a beautiful pot of hearty soup. So, all right, this is onion free. It's dairy free. Make sure what I'm saying is right. It's dairy free. It's not grain free. It is onion free though, that's what's important. But this is also gluten free. So if you have any friends who have dietary issues that restrict them from eating onions, dairy, or gluten, this is probably your go-to soup. So stir up a good salad with it. When the weather turns cool, this is something you'll want to have on hand. I'm sure this freezes beautifully. I probably, when I made it the last time, I froze containers of it and shared those with people. They came to my house and bought them, or we ate it as leftovers. But I hope you give this a try. Especially, I want you to check into the homemade sausage and the baked rice. So those are fun ones too. We will link those videos in the description, and the recipe will be in there as always. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. See ya.